Hey there.
Hi.
Hi, Joni. How you doing? Stay. You gotta stay on for at least 10 minutes, Joni. When you come in the room, that's the ask.
Hi,
Um,
Joni.
um. So we've been talking stress awareness month. This entire month of April, Dr. D and I have gotten on each and every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. to talk all things stress related, all things that come under that umbrella, which I didn't even realize was so much. Um,
We've been doing
and
good though. We've been
yes,
talking how to be aware of your stress, how to manage your stress, how to prevent stress, how to cope with stress. We hit a lot of stuff.
yes. Tonight is interesting. I mean, I was stressed out this morning, Dr. I don't even know if I want to get into that story, but I'm gonna start with the fact that I
I
like
want
to.
to hear it now.
Oh, okay. A long story short is I woke up this morning. I was getting my day started. I go to walk out the door and I can't find my car keys. So I'm like, okay, where are my car keys? Now, you got to retrace your steps. I'm like, I brought my niece home with me last night. We came in, she was carrying something. I went this way. I'm retracing all my steps. I was looking for my car keys for 4 hours. I I've just moved back in with my mother, so all of my stuff is everywhere. I ripped my room apart looking for my car keys. I did not find them all day. Are you still with me on here, Dr. Z? I think you froze up. Let's see. Can you hear me? Oh, did you freeze? Uh-oh. Can y'all drop something in the chat? Let me make sure I'm not frozen. Those in the chat. Uh-oh. Dr. D, did I freeze? Oh, okay. Okay. Well, she'll come back in a second. Appreciate it, Joni. I don't know. Did she must have froze. Does the screen look frozen to y'all? Oh, okay. Well, Sketch by Meg, how you doing? I'm gonna finish up the story real quick then. The long story short is my mother comes home for work at 6:30 and tells me that she had my car keys in her car all day. I was home all day. I couldn't go anywhere because my mother had my car keys and I didn't know where they were. So I had to take a deep breath. And I've just come to the realization that sometimes, I got to just sit still. First of all, be still and recognize that everything is working out for my good, first of all. So maybe wherever I needed to go today, I probably just didn't need to be there. Maybe whatever I had planned on my schedule, I needed to sit still for a day and like really get some stuff done. What's going on? Let me see. I just tried to add you again, Dr. D. Hello?
Hi.
Okay. I don't know what happened.
It kicked me off and didn't want to let me back in.
That is so crazy. Okay. So the long story short is that my mother had my car keys all day, and I had literally tore the house apart. I was here for like 4 hours. I walked around the house looking for my keys. I'm retracing my steps, all of the things. Okay. She gets home at like 6:30, and she's like, "Oh, yeah, I had them in the car. My bad. I thought I had picked up the mailbox key." So I had to take a deep breath
Yes, you did.
because I was stuck in the
It's
house
all you
all
can
day.
do.
I was already pricing how much is this going to cost me to buy another key for my car, like all of the things. Hyper stress situation, right? And what I was saying to the chat before you came back in is the recognizing of, you know what, maybe I just needed to be in the house today.
Yes.
Everything is working out for
Yeah.
my good anyway.
Yes.
Maybe whatever I needed to go today didn't need to happen.
Yep.
So,
Yes, I spent a lot of time today talking with a lot of different people about this actually, but one of them was my exec coach, right? Because I have, coaches need coaches. And I have an exec coach right now for a few sessions through a fellowship that I'm a part of. And one of the things that we talked about today is understanding what you can control and what you can't control,
mhm.
and how that helps you manage your energy, right? Which is always a struggle for me, because I have a huge internal locus of control. So I think I can control a lot more than I actually can. You know what I mean? And I
Yes.
always have to work on taking inventory of, okay, what can I control? What can I not control? Is this a situation where I can do something about it? Or is this a situation where I just have to manage my own reactions because I
Mm-hmm.
can't actually manage the situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's always the work. So it's interesting that your keys just up and disappeared and your mama got them the whole time and now you stuck in the house. And it's a perfect example of you can't always control the circumstance. You can't always control the situation bringing you stress, but you can control how you manage your reaction to that situation and how stressed you get as a result of it, you know?
Yes,
Hey
that's
Meg,
fair.
I see you in the chat. Yes, tech difficulties.
Yes. Hey, Carla, welcome to the chat. 10 minutes is all we ask. Stay for at least 10 minutes, get something, take it home.
Mhm.
It's interesting to your point of like, you can't, all I can manage is my reaction. So even when she came home and Mercedes, I'm so sorry. Oh my God. And I was just like, you know what? It's okay. It's
Mhm.
okay. I could have been at 10, but
Yes.
I'm gonna stay at 1 and it's
I'm
okay.
I'm glad
Nothing.
you said that because sometimes we're the stressful thing in another person's life because we don't manage our own stress, right? So part of our work is not creating the ripple effect that makes us the stressful thing that somebody else now has to manage. And we just continue contributing to negative energy in the world in that way, right? So sometimes it's just about us resetting. Do we have to shame this person? Do we have to stress this person? Do we have to lecture this person? Do we, right? Or can we just, is there a way to be like, okay, we may need to talk about where we put the keys, but right now we good. The day was good, we're good, everything is fine, right?
Yeah, I received that. You're right. You're right. Okay, I want to go into a big topic of discussion in the zeitgeist, I think, right now is codependency and being hyper independent. Two different areas of stress, I think, in that sense. I think a lot of people today can be very codependent. Um, but I don't know, codependency can be healthy sometimes because I'm a person who I think I'm self proclaimed a hyper independent person. I don't know how well that's doing for me. So maybe I need to be a little bit more. But then I'm a person who also looks at codependency and I recognize this as a weakness sometimes. Like, why you always got to rely on somebody else?
You know, we talk about this and we're going to continue to talk about this because so much of stress management is about finding balance, right? The name of the game is harmony. Okay? So you're talking about hyper independence over here and codependency over here, right? But we're not talking about healthy relationships and boundaries, which are smack in the middle. It is not helpful for you to be completely and totally enmeshed in another person to the point where you don't know where they end and you begin and vice versa, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is also not helpful for you to be so afraid of intimacy that you can't connect to another individual and so you constantly manage everything alone, right? So what we're always talking about is how do you come back from the extremes? How do you create balance and harmony in your life so that you can have healthy relationships with healthy boundaries where you can take a breath and you can be there for other people, but they're not pulling at you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can take some space and be by yourself, but it's not the only way you know how to be, right? So that's the name of the game, is how do you create the
The
harmony?
balance in it. So even okay, so in terms of being someone who wants to give, but I also don't want you to depend on me to continue to always give. Like I think your cup should already be full and whatever, I bring is just an addition. But then is that a deficiency if people are okay.
No, you have every right to be boundaried with your generosity, right? That doesn't undermine the generosity of your spirit, right? Like you can be a generous person that has boundaries. I do it all the time. I don't think that they're mutually exclusive concepts, which is how we treat them sometimes. Sometimes we treat generosity and boundaries as if they cannot coexist, and that's not the case. I actually think that the better your boundaries are, the more sustainable.
Ooh, the
and
giving.
lasting your giving can be, right? So creating healthy boundaries is also an incredibly solid way to be able to continue to be a giving person long term, because you're not giving your last and then being without, right? So I think it's important. It's important for you to be able to put a boundary on that generosity.
Okay, so but sometimes, Dr. D, with the boundaries come the backlash.
Yeah, that's not your business. I keep telling you, mind your business. Not everybody is going to like every choice you make for your own well-being. That's why it's a choice for your well-being, right? It's okay if you are operating from a place of health, if you are operating from a place of compassion, and that compassion honors both the other person and you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And other people are, oh, how did I
I
do
don't
that?
know. Did you clap or something?
If you are honoring other people and yourself through a place of compassion, right, in your spirit, you can just continue to move knowing that what you're doing is in the best interest of all involved. You don't need them to co-sign it.
Mm.
You can't expect every person involved with you to co-sign every choice you make for your own well-being. They may not see it, they may not understand it, they may not agree with it, and it may not be in their best interest. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Be compassionate, be understanding, be aware, but also be boundaried.
That's good. I feel like it kind of perfectly segues into the fact of the idea of like everybody can't go. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so when I think in terms of like growing and evolving and becoming the person that I need to be for whatever next chapter I'm about to walk into my life, what is that feeling of friends either not evolving with you, or they can't accept the growth?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Or they not sabotage your growth, but they almost resent your growth sometimes. Some
Yeah,
friends. You know what I
you
mean?
know, it's difficult for people who are in their own fears, right? And we have the same thing, by the way. Like, I don't think any of us are exempt. We may act on it differently, we may entertain it for less time, right? But it's kind of a common experience that if you're used to a relationship and that relationship looks like it's being threatened by anything, even success, you take a pause, right?
Mm.
You experience a little fear of abandonment, you might experience a little bit of a fear of loss, right? And that's okay. So I want to honor that we're often responding to a fear of losing something that we value. And that value placed on that relationship is okay, right? The tricky part is when we act on that fear in a way that's sabotaging or jeopardizing or operationalizes an insecurity of ours or the other person's, right? When we start to take it into that area, that's when it becomes problematic. You know, if somebody that I love is succeeding, right? I can have a moment where I'm like, what will that mean?
For our
Right? What
relationship,
will
you
that
mean?
mean for our
Mm.
relationship, right? I can have that moment. I'm entitled to that moment. That doesn't make me a bad person. But that's just a moment. It can only be a moment,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then you have the health, the integrity, the compassion, the love, the faith, the wherewithal to be like, you know what? If it's a solid relationship, it may shift, but it'll continue, right? And if it doesn't continue in the way it is now, it'll still be available, or maybe it comes back around, right? You give yourself the space to envision how it can work out for everyone involved, right? Because everyone can win. So take the moment, right? Don't hate people for having the moment, right? People can have the moment. But if you notice that it's more than a moment, then you have to shift that relationship, because that's a person that's not going to be conducive to your growth.
Yeah, that's interesting. I love that you said it's a moment, and I know I'm not going to get biblical on you, but it's always a saying of Peter had a bad day and Judas had a bad heart. Two
Right,
different things, right?
right.
Peter had a bad day when he pulled out that knife to cut somebody, and Jesus was like, "Just relax." But Judas had a bad heart, like he betrayed him. So
You know,
just because we coming off the hills,
it It is it's hard for me because I'm not a proponent of um of seeing people as having a bad heart, right? People in our world. I know there are people that may be beyond what other people can help, right? But in terms of the people that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, I think most people have um insecurities.
Mm,
I think more than anything, people are insecure. And I think because some of us have been shamed
mm,
around our insecurities, or because some of us have not been taught how to identify and understand those insecurities, they create holes in our personhood.
mm.
And then the more holes you have as a person, the harder it is to connect with other people, right? um but we all have insecurities, all of us, at all, at all times. There's something that's running. Right now I'm insecure about this lipstick on my teeth that I cannot get off, right? We all have that. But the question is, how much of your energy, how much of your time, how much of your emotional space do you devote to your insecurities? How much power do you give it in your relationship with yourself and with other people, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's a question of how people manage their insecurities.
Yes, everyone has insecurities, and that brings me to a totally different idea. Because someone asked me months ago, why do I show up so confident? And asked me, was that something that my parents instilled, or was that something that I did like the work on myself? And not for nothing, I don't think that I've recognized myself as showing up as a confident person. I think I show up as my feet on the ground, and that comes across as confident. But I attribute, so I'm at the question is, do you think kids need to be instilled with, is that possible for kids to be instilled with confidence? How do we do that for our children so that they grow up to be adults who have both feet on the ground when they show up?
I love that you said that, because so much of being confident in a healthy way is really about being grounded, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's about being humble. And you can be humble and confident. Again, two terms that are always treated as if they're mutually exclusive when they're actually very, very much a part of one another, right? I just reach
But you got a book.
on my
Of course you got
bookshelf.
a book. Uh-huh.
Now, I made this for a client a very long time ago, but I use it all the time, right?
I
And I
have a
always talk
lot of
about this. I have a lot to learn. I have
and
a lot
offer.
to offer,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's your anchor, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how you anchor yourself. That's how you stay grounded, right? I
Mm-hmm.
have a lot to learn and I have a lot to offer,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so if you can ground yourself in that, if you can constantly remember that, if you're constantly moving in that energy, then it's easy to come across both confident and humble, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're always being mindful of the fact that you have a lot to offer and
Woo!
you have a lot to learn at the same time.
So yes, because then you don't come across as I know everything
Right,
and
because we
I don't
don't.
have anything to give, or or I don't have
Right.
anything to give.
Again,
Wow.
operating on the extremes, right? When the name of the game is, where's my balance? Where's my
Yeah,
harmony?
I love
Mm-hmm.
that. That's good. That's good.
Good. I aim to please
Yes.
sometimes. Not
Okay.
often.
Can
Sometimes.
we talk a little bit about stress eating? So this is a an issue. Okay, so America has an obesity problem,
Yes.
and I don't know what the foundation or where that comes from in terms of stress eating. I honestly don't even know if I understand the mechanics of stress eating either. I mean, if you're at a hyper level and you're, at that space and now you turn to food to either fill a void, I'm not really sure. How
Yeah.
would you explain stress eating?
So this is not my area of expertise. There are a lot of people who are much smarter than me in this, but I will lend my insight, right? I think of stress eating in a similar way as I think of turning to any behavior from a place of stress,
Mm,
right? Energetically, you're operating from a deficit. You're looking for something to fill you because you feel an emptiness or a void inside, right? That can be work for a lot of people. That can be relationships
mm,
for a lot of people. That
mm,
can be food, that can be alcohol, that can be all, number of things, right? Sometimes they are things that um are readily available. And I think that's where stress eating has become a much popular conversation in the discourse, because unlike some other of the things that I mentioned, food, and particularly food that keeps you feeling hungry,
Mm-hmm.
is very readily available, right, for consumption. And so it's easy to get your hands on it, and it's very, very hard to feel full as a result of it. And so it keeps you in that cycle. But I think the question with everything is, why am I going to this?
Right.
Why am I going to this meal? Why am I going to this man? Why am I going to this drink? What am I looking for? Right? What am I trying to get out of this? I don't think that we are conscious decision makers often. I think that we've gotten into a routine, especially in our adulthood, where, we talked about this last week. You just are who you are. This is just who I am.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? This is just what I do, right? And we fall into these traps, these behavior traps, where we're in our habits and we're not making conscious, deliberate decisions to operate in our best interest. So I think, part of the question is, what's your relationship with this thing based in? Is it based in deficit? Are you operating from a place of deficit and trying to use this thing to fill you? Because if that's the case, if there's a void there that you're using this thing to fill, you're very likely to end up unsatisfied,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think the question to always ask yourself is, why am I going to this thing, to this person, to this substance, to this, whatever it is? What am I looking for?
Yeah. The word that just poked out to me when you were speaking was habits.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I think of habits, I think of patterns, and when I think of patterns, I think of a loop. And I think a lot of people are always talking about generational cycles and generational curses and trauma, and it really just made me think about whether that's alcohol, food, whatever the case may be. Like the patterns that you've created from yourself don't just start when you're an adult; they start from a
Yeah.
child. Patterns that you don't even know that you've been creating.
Yeah. And
So by the
whether we're talking about intergenerational curses, whether we're talking about the intergenerational transmission of trauma, whatever it is, however we talk about it, the fact is that what often happens from one generation to the other is that a habit that's unhealthy, or a situation that's dangerous, or something that's not helpful gets normalized, right?
time.
um and once that is normalized, then it becomes, like you said, a habit that gets passed on, carried on, unquestioned. And rather than us engaging in deliberate decision making, we're just acting off of, some sort of emotional or spiritual or whatever muscle memory, right? Familial muscle memory. So the question is, can you go back and be, again, we talked about mindfulness last week. Can you start becoming more mindful of everything that you do? Taking
Mm-hmm.
inventory of every decision that you make, not from a place of insecurity, not from a place of self-doubt, but from a place of confirmation. Is this really what I want to do?
Mm-hmm.
Do I really want to wear these earrings? Do I really want my hair in this bun? Do I really want to put on makeup? Do I really want to show up to this place? Do I really want to talk to this person? Is this how I really want to speak? Do I really want to say this thing? You know what I'm saying? Just
Mm-hmm.
being more mindful in the choices that we make and the decisions that we make, so that we're consciously choosing the life that we live, rather than just kind of walking through and then saying that it happened to us.
Yeah. So why is it that when you want to break the pattern and adopt new habits and ideologies and all those things, there is a level of stress that comes with going against the grain of what you've been taught. Like the not even the stress of other people weighing in, just the stress of trying to figure out something new.
Yeah. Change is difficult, and change is difficult because with uncertainty comes insecurity, right? And with insecurity comes a lack of safety, right? A feeling of safety. There's something safe about doing things the way we've always done them, because we know what has come of it, right? So if we just repeat what we've always done, even if it's not taking us, to the best place, we can more or less predict where it will move us, because we've already been there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a feeling of safety that comes from that. right? So sometimes, depending on how our lives are set up, we'll choose safety or that feeling of safety over anything else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially over the promise of something better that may or may not happen and is completely insecure and uncertain, right? Like that has much less appeal than the safety of what we know has been here, that we know we've survived and that we know how to navigate. So I think there's always an anxiety or a nervousness or a worry that comes with any type of change, right? But I think that part of what helps us get through it is what they call our sense of self-efficacy, right? Do we think we can do something, right? A lot of people don't have a strong sense of self-efficacy. They've survived whatever they survived, and all they know they can get through is what they've been through, right?
Mm-hmm.
So having a sense of self-efficacy, having a, a belief in your own ability to move, to be resilient, to survive, to succeed, to thrive, right? To be able to have that feeling inside of you that, yes, I know I can, do better, and I know I'm going to come out on the other side, and I know, I believe in myself, right? That goes a long way, but it's hard to build. It's hard
Mm-hmm.
to build. Baby steps. You do a little more every day, a little
Yes.
more every day.
If anybody has any questions, please drop them in the chat. We can address them. We're going to close out in about 5 minutes. One of my last questions for tonight, too, just kind of tying back into what we talked about a little earlier in being secure and feet on the ground. And it's in terms of building a life for yourself that can prevent stress. How do we build secure people?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do we like we touched a lot on insecurities as well. How do you start to unravel some of those insecurities or debunk some of those things in your head so you do show up flat-footed, grounded, mindful, making those decisions?
Yeah. I think, this is not a direct answer, but it's an important answer to start the process. We really have to get good at listening to ourselves. Again, we talked a little bit about that last week. We really need to get good at listening to ourselves and being able to hear the things that we're telling ourselves and then reality test them. Remember, not every thought we have is true just because we thought it. And not every true thought is helpful just because it's true. And not every helpful thought needs to continue to be repeated just because it was
Wait
helpful, right? So we have
a
to
second.
really.
Hold on. Okay, rewind. Okay. Give it to me one more time. Not every thought. Okay, go ahead.
Not every thought we
For the people.
have is true, right? Not every thought we have is true. So that matters, right? And sometimes we have true thoughts that are not helpful, right? For us to keep dwelling on, right? So this lipstick on my teeth, right? It is true, it's there. I don't need to keep thinking about it, right? That's not helping. You know what I mean? So not every thought we have is true. Not every true thought we have is helpful. And even if it is helpful in making us more vigilant, in moving us to the next step, in making us aware of something that we were not aware of before, whatever it is, just because it's helpful doesn't mean that we need to continue to dwell on it in order to do something about it, right? So some of it is about just listening to yourself and being able to catch the thoughts that go through your mind so they're not on autopilot. Again, deliberate decisions to think certain things or to stop thinking certain things or to focus on certain thoughts, right? Or to challenge other thoughts, right? So really getting into that thinking. And then once you really have gotten into that, you can start debunking your own insecurities, right? Because you can start talking yourself through, okay, maybe it's true, but maybe it's not important.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's true and important, but maybe it's not something anybody else is paying attention
Mm-hmm.
to. Or maybe it's true and it's important and other people are paying attention, but rather than me dwell on it, I can get support for it. Or you know what I'm saying? And you can
Yeah.
start to reframe and you can start to play with how you're thinking. So once you have that level of internal conversation and introspection, then you can really ground yourself in the things you can feel secure about. And your insecurities become more in and out conversations that you can challenge and move through and splice and pick at and really work. That's how you start to handle some of your own insecurities. And in doing that, you'll attract people who are also more secure in themselves and who can contribute the same level of stability and security and safety to whatever relationship you're building.
That's good. When you were talking about that, it made me think of like having almost like having your insecurities like thrown up on a wall, and you just like you know, like literally dissecting them because
Sift
they
and
shouldn't
sort.
attach. They really shouldn't attach to you. They should be
Mm-hmm.
over there on the board,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to
Mm-hmm.
dissect. Why do I feel this way about
Right.
that? Where did I get that from? Is that true? So they're not who you are. There's these thoughts that
Mm-hmm.
continue to
There's
come in.
something you're wearing. Yep. The same way you would have a closet full of clothes that you wear sometimes. You go through, you sift and sort through what you need, you throw it up in the closet.
That's good. And today I
Mm-hmm.
don't feel like wearing. Not good
Right.
enough.
That one you could that one you can get rid of. That one you could donate.
Yes. That is all we have for tonight. Did anyone have any questions before we sign out? We're talking stress awareness the entire month of April for Stress Awareness Month every Wednesday night. So we'll be back here again next Wednesday at 7 p.m. for the last installment of this series. I
Next
know.
week is our last
Yes.
one.
I appreciate y'all. Dr. D, maybe we had some technical difficulties because we ain't prayed before we got on here on this one, but that's all right. Next time.
It's true. That is our first time not doing that.
That's
That's true. All
Well,
right. Well, now we
anything
know.
else you want to sign off on? I'm good.
No, I'm great. This has been so good. I think that it's so, I've been learning a lot about micro learning. And it's so important. Sorry, I'm looking at Meg's comment. How to let go of anxiety of people not liking me. And she's so likable. Um, the thing is, again, I said this very flippantly before, and I want to say it again in a way that really resonates. Mind your business. The reality of the situation is that other people's opinions of you are limited. It doesn't mean they can't be useful, doesn't mean that feedback can't be helpful, but it's incomplete, right?
Mm,
Because no one knows every aspect of you. So no matter what opinion they have of you, it will always be incomplete. There's always something in the story that they're missing. So take it for what it's worth, but don't be overly invested in it, right? I always think of other people's opinions of me as a consultation, right?
mm,
It's just an estimate, that a consultant or a contractor came and gave you. That's all it is, right? So you can look at it and be like, okay, this is the work that needs to be done. This is the quote, you know what I mean? But you don't have to invest in that. You don't have to invest in that project, and you don't have to invest in that partner, right? So always keep that feedback at a distance. Other
mm.
people's opinions of you are
Not, not for business.
yeah, and they're reflections of you in a funhouse mirror. You know what I mean?
Mm. They're
It doesn't
distorted,
mean
like distorted.
they're distorted. Yeah.
Mm,
Doesn't mean that what you're looking at is completely wrong, right? But it's incomplete, it's distorted, it's not reliable. So you have to really take it with a grain of salt. Don't completely ignore feedback, because we can learn a lot from what other people see of us, right? I can't see all of me from where I'm sitting. So I depend on my community to reflect back to me where there are things that I might want to look at, right? But I also take that with a grain of salt. Not every person's opinion and not every word of their opinion is going to be as important. It's there, but it's incomplete and distorted.
mm. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Hope to see you next week, Meg. Okay, see you guys next Wednesday at 7. Have a good night.
Good night.